I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
mind.
I'm sure you're used to me making fishing videos. Got something different for y'all. A GARMIN trolling motor install. It's right here, guys. It's on. And we're gonna go step by step on how to install this thing. And I mean everything. Some of this stuff you might already know. Some things you might be trying to look for, that's great. Fast forward through stuff, get to the parts you want to. Here's what I'll say about all that. I was here for all of it. I filmed it all. I was there for the whole thing. What I learned is invaluable. Little tips here and there about everything, about things I didn't even know. The guys at Jones Marine Electronics went through it all. Taylor sat there and went through all of this stuff. So guys, if this is what you want, like I said, be sure to follow along. This isn't the only thing. Remember, we're going to go into batteries, power pole charge, and then right there, installation of live scope, graphs, all of it, wires. It's all going to be on here, the whole series. But it doesn't stop there, guys. Remember, we're going to go through working with graphs, live scope, everything. We're going to continually making videos all throughout the year. Everything you need to know about GARMIN trolling motors, electronics, the batteries, right? Power pole charge, how all of it works, anything you might need to know, all the little secrets that we learn along the way, tips, just things about working on them. Hope you'll enjoy this, follow along, and I promise you, you're gonna learn something. All right, let's start. Why do you put the trolling motor on before all this stuff? It wouldn't be easier to put the...
No, I like to get a trolling motor on, if not first thing, directly after like what we've done right now, pulling wires and network and all that, because now I can get live scope, the built-in transducer, power cables, all that routed and tucked in, and then go into adding, graphs, mounts, all that kind of stuff on top of it. So that way I know where I stand and where I can get everything as neat as possible.
All right, guys, we're rigging up our boat. So we figured, why not show y'all how to do a GARMIN trolling motor. So got my brand new Skeeter, and we're over here at Jones Marine Electronics. They're going to install the brand new GARMIN Force trolling motor. We haven't set up the electronics yet. All right, we've run the cables, everything. So we're going to show you from start to finish. Right, it is. So I mean, we don't even have holes put on this yet. So we're going to start basically from the box.
Since we don't have any holes already mounted up or drilled in the boat, we got to get in here and we got to get a mount out, and we're going to mark holes, drill holes, and get that base down first.
So what are we putting on here? We got a, what is that, 50-inch?
Yeah, this is the GARMIN Force 50-inch. It's a 24 or 36 volt trolling motor because it's a brushless style motor. It automatically switches between voltages, all that kind of stuff. Got a built-in.
Automatically switches between.
Yeah, 24 or 36 depending on your system. You don't have to program it, anything like that. It just auto does it.
So guys, this is my first ever GARMIN trolling motor. So I'm learning it just like y'all are.
This trolling motor's been out for about 3 years. It was the first time anybody had a brushless model out. First time anybody had, the auto switching, sensing, 24, 36 volts. Just a lot of new technology, in this trolling motor, and we've been service centers for them since the very beginning. And man, we've seen and tested, and we know how tough these trolling motors are. It's a beast, and it's a lot of power. Even though they rate these things at 100 pounds of thrust at 36 volts, I'm here to tell you it's way more than that. I mean, it pulls bass boats fully loaded on max speed at 4 or 4.5 miles an hour. It's a lot of power.
So when we do all this, what's going to happen is right now we're just focused on the installing part, right? So we're gonna try to go over as much as we can about this trolling motor and about what it can do, but we're definitely going to go do another video on and actually show y'all out in the water, things like that, things it's capable of. Even for like right now, like in case some of y'all don't know, explain the brushless system, like just in case, like dumb it down for all of us that might not know what that is.
So traditional trolling motors, having the brushes, having an armature in there, the biggest downfall of that, it was fairly efficient, But the downfall was sonar interference for so long. And these brushless motors,
And it got hot.
yes, got very hot.
And we say that because they all used to laugh at me. As much as I run trolling motors and batteries dead and I sight fished and I did all these things, my trolling motor, my armature would look like a 4-year-old armature and it'd be 6 months old because of how hot and hard I ran it. That's not going to be the case anymore, correct?
Yeah, you don't have those particular inner components anymore to fail and get hot and have issues. I have yet personally to see any of those kind of problems out of one of these trolling motors. That's why they're so much better. And I mean, they still have a great warranty system and all that if you were to have a problem. But man, I mean, it's just the minimal amount of issues out of the hundreds of these we've sold since they come out. It's just incredible. No other trolling motor's ever been this problem-free and this efficient. I mean, guys that have changed from their old trolling motors over to one of these that used to run their batteries dead, by say, 3 o'clock on the tournament day, and they know they're getting close on battery. These trolling motors, they're still able to, if they wanted to, they could go back out and fish for another few hours and not have any issues. It's just so much easier on battery life. So, big things. For most people, you're gonna have on an existing boat that's not a brand new install like this where we've got all this stripped down right now, you're gonna be able to look and see, okay, I'm gonna have clearance on all this, it's easy to check that. So in this case, when it's a brand new install, from experience, some of the things you want to look at, like this line right here in your pad up here on this front step, and then your lip right here that goes over into the graph mount. You just want to take all that in consideration because those graphs are going to be directly above this, so you don't want to get this mount hugging this too much or hugging this too much, but that's what you want to use as your guide for where you want this thing at. And on your overhang up here on the front, it's a big deal. On your overhang here, I've seen it for years, whether it's an old Fortrex or a new modeling of one of these or any of the other ones, you got to have adequate overhang here. Like, personally, I want this thing out probably at least that far over this rail. So obviously the shaft's not going to sit right on this point right here. It's going to be on out here, but you don't want that too close to here. I've seen guys mount these things like that because they think, oh man, it's clear and it's good. Well, that shaft, it's made to flex. So you don't want that shaft to flex into this because that's a pivot point to snap a shaft. You got to have some room, that way it can move and do as it needs to do. That's going to help you get a lot more life out of a trolling motor. Because if it's sitting here flexing on this too much, I mean, man, that's what causes broke shafts, when in any other case they wouldn't break. So inside of this mount here, they've got a piece of foam that they used in shipping. And it helps keep your mount from not getting beat up in the box. But another good thing is that right there, for when you're laying this trolling motor out and you're getting ready to install it, mark your holes, all that kind of stuff, you can lay that out there and keep from scratching your gel coat. It's a big help. So what we're going to do now, pop this arm up, latch it in. Now, down here in this mount, you see your mounting holes here. These mounting holes are the exact same as, say, a Minn Kota trolling motor. Now, Motor Guide is a different set of holes, so if you're coming from a Minn Kota and your holes were done up from the factory with these 6 right here, this is just a spare for if you're right on the edge of the cap or something like that, to get it back off the cap a little bit. But these holes are going to line up with your holes in your Minn Kota, so you don't have to drill any more holes, coming from your other one to this trolling motor, which is a big help. So we're going to get in here, take our paint pen, make us a little dot in here on these holes where we want them.
You gonna use all of them? Even that extra one?
No, I don't use the extra one. I just always have it there just in case when I look. I'm gonna fill up underneath there, and we'll mention that. I'm gonna fill up underneath there and make sure I'm not too close to the cap. So we got our holes marked here. We're gonna go in here, 1/4-inch drill bit for our 1/4 20 bolts we're going to mount the trolling motor up with. And this is the fun part, or the cringe part for people like Todd, because they get to see their new boat get a bunch of holes in it.
Absolutely cringe part for me. I'm just gonna close my eyes.
One thing I always do have to remind people of, especially on, you know, a lot of boats have a pad like this over this part here, but on these Skeeters, it keeps them a lot prettier, you know, because they don't have that pad, so it's just all that pretty gel coat up here. But when you first start these holes, don't put all your weight on top of this drill, because you will shatter this gel coat everywhere, you know, run spider cracks out in it. You got to go easy till you get through that first little bit of gel, and once you start hitting that fiberglass, you know, then you can get down into it and get it through. Got all of them drilled here. One thing I like to do a light countersink on these holes right here, just because I think it helps with some stress cracking over time, and you don't want, you know, after a year or two of fishing this boat on Rayburn or Toledo to see spider cracks start to come out on this. And so you taper that gel coat back a little bit around these holes, it's going to help a lot with that in the long run. And it just takes just a second to do it. You don't have to do very much, just a quick little go at it. And you can hear it possibly when it first starts. It cracks off that first little edge, and that's why we're doing this, so that doesn't happen in the future. We're just going ahead and getting that process out of the way.
That'll hopefully prevent stress cracks.
Yep. I mean, you know, at some point you can't prevent them, but you know, you can get rid of a lot of the early ones.
That's good. I like that. You're just gonna start calling them Taylor's tips from here on out. For the guys at home, say worst case scenario, say someone did mess up on a hole. It's not the end of the world.
No, it's definitely not the end of the world. You know, man, even if you messed up on it as far as, you know, you get started mounted and you know, moved your holes over a little bit or something like that, you know, it's real easy to go in there and, you know, widen that out just a little bit, you know, go up from that 1/4 bit, you know, go up a size or so and get it back where everything's square again, and it's an easy deal. And if you just completely miss one of them, if you want to get it fixed on, you know, fiberglass repair deal, it's not a big deal. These are very easy to fix. It's minor, you know.
And it's all going to be hidden. Yep. Chances are all of it's going to be hidden underneath the trolling motor.
Yep. Pretty much everything, you know, you're not going to even see a stitch of any of these from where the trolling motor is going to be. This box of goodies right here, Garmin is a very, very good company to work with as far as doing installs and stuff like that. You got a mounting template for you guys at home if you're doing this at home and you don't already have pre-drilled holes. So you got all that there, you know what you need to do.
So you could have done that, use that for your holes instead of what you did.
Yeah,
okay.
I just like to put that base up there. That's just my way of doing it, because I can really visualize better what's going on, you know, where everything's going to be sitting at. Everything's labeled A, B, C, D, you know, E, about, you know, the steps and everything. They've got a good instruction book in here for doing it at home, DIY, if you don't have time to watch a full video or something like that. But it's all labeled, it's all in here. You don't have to go hunting for anything. You know, you ain't gotta wonder where does this go like you do with some other install stuff. It's all good, all ready to go right there in the box.
He said if you don't have time to watch the video, guys, I'd take time to watch the video. If nothing else, even if you think you know it all, even like me, I've done this kind of before, I'm gonna learn something. I promise you I'm gonna learn something from him. So still probably good to watch the video. Just, if nothing else, to reassure yourself you're doing it right. Is that one stuck?
Might be.
Okay.
So, got the base up here. We got 5 out of the 6 bolts, you know, dropped right in there from the holes I drilled. This one right here is just a little bit tight. You can't just push it down in there, but it's not enough that it's going to grab. So, you know, we just ease it down there and see it's in there now. It's spinning, so it's still free. It just a little cockeyed going down through there. No big deal. just run it the rest of the way down. And if for some reason you do that and it wants to bite at the end, you just run it back up out of there, take your drill bit and run it up through there a few times, and that'll get those little burr off of it or whatever's in it, and you'll be ready to go. So Garmin has always sent brass nuts instead of stainless steel. Most everybody else always just does stainless steel. You have to put anti-seize on them because the stainless bolt, stainless nut, you get them too hot, they seize up, they get hung up, and then you got to cut that bolt off or break it somehow to get it out. That way you can restart, and do all that. But the brass, even on trolling motors that don't come with them from the factory that way, I prefer them just because you can get them zipped down on there good and tight. You don't have to worry about getting anti-seize all over everywhere, having to break a bolt off to fix it, anything like that. It's just a lot handier and a lot easier process. So one thing I forgot to mention, on these newer, and I'm pretty sure it's only the 2023s, I don't remember it being an issue on 2022s. Depending on how you get all this lined up, this bolt right here that I had to run down in there, it wasn't because of a burr or anything, it's because there's a support piece right here in the fiberglass. So instead of it just being flat underneath it, you've got a little rib in there. And so that's what it was that was just running down right beside it. So going to a little bit longer one, that way we can get it down there and get a nut on it and get it cinched down like it needs to be. And that was just something that I'd forgot from this boat to the one before this that I've done.
Now, where did you get these? These came.
So that's the stock length one that comes with a trolling motor kit. And you look at this one right here compared to it, you're adding on another fair bit of length. And that's what we need just to clear the bottom of that rib. So we're gonna get this one down in here. We're gonna do the same thing, just have to run it down. See, it falls the rest of the way through. And now I know you can't see the underside of it, but we've got,
I'll see.
Just a trolling motor install tip. Most everybody, commonly just has a number 2 Phillips bit. You want to go number 3 for these, just so you get it seated in there real good. You don't have any issue of spinning it out, rounding the head off, anything like that. And your nut on the bottom side is going to be a 7/16 or an 11 millimeter. So we're going to get in here and we're going to cinch this thing down. And one other thing, always don't forget your strap. You need to have that rough water, trailering down the road. Always remember to get that strap on there. On bass cats, so because of the spacers they use to space it off the deck, these straps are normally underneath one of these sets of bolts, like where these bolts are running through the middle of the strap. Most any other boat, you don't really have to do that unless you just want to. The only thing that I like to do sometimes to keep this from laying down here and riding on the gel coat, just in case you forget to flip it, and do your strap when you're going across rough water, is I'll take a little small screw and I'll pin this up here and screw that screw in right here. That way this isn't down just flopping on your gel coat.
Are we going to do that to this one?
Yes, we are going to do that.
Okay. I just think any of that personalized stuff that they like, hey, if we go to this, that's what they're thinking all the time.
We're going to get over here and we're going to stab this trolling motor on here. I like to set this up here on the head, get it out of the way. Don't want to pinch any of that. And then you got a little tape in here inside of these to hold these bushings in. Peel that tape off. We'll go ahead and take it off these upper ones too before we get there.
Can you do this by yourself?
Yes,
Okay.
you can do it by yourself. Pull cable right here. There's a groove in the front of this mount, and this is in your inner channel right here. You're gonna lay that cable right there. You're gonna pick this up, bring it over. So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna look in here from the side, lift it up, and get your holes lined up. Right there. We got it started. We'll come over here and we'll just look. Get the hole lined up. And you gotta watch this cable because it will flop on you.
Where do you want this cable at?
You want it inside. I gotta pull my pin back just a little bit.
Going through that groove right there?
Yep, you want it right in that groove right there.
I got it.
And so now, you got that back there, get your holes lined back up. And that's the
depth of that is just blowing through it.
That's why I said, like, something just released from that cable. I got it now. It's no, I mean it was like hung up a little bit.
I gotcha.
That might have been what was stopping it.
Yeah. All right, so you just get that pin in there flush, and that part of it's good. Go ahead and take this cable. You got an eyelet right here. Run it in from the bottom up through there, and that's the first half of the mount done right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to come and fold this over. Break your tape off. So this is your rear gas shock.
Hold on.
You have a, we got the rear gas shock in. Come over here in this bag. It's bag C in the install kit. There's 4 Phillips in that bag. They got a little Loctite on them. One on either side right here. And you don't want to torque these down. That's why the Loctite's on them. You're just running them down until they're tight. And then what we're going to do is this mount's going to fold over now. So you see when it gets to here, with it straight, you can't get it to close all the way because of the shoulder right here on the top. So what you're going to have to do is pull your pull cord, raise it up, flop that on the inside, and then let her back down. One real important thing, you got to remember to connect this wire right here. It comes out of your servo on your trolling motor, and it goes into the back side of this panel, and you kind of have to do it in the blind. There's not a real good way to be able to see it, but once we get it connected, we'll show you where it's at. And it's a keyed hole, so you can't get it wrong. It's going to only go into that hole one way.
Okay.
Now we come over, got bag D, got another pin, got a couple of short shoulder bolts right there, some washers. This is going to go up here in the top side. Start it, line your hole up right here. And this one's a lot easier than the first one because you don't have any issues with it pivoting around or anything like that. Get it even on both sides. And then we're going to come back and add these bolts and washers. Again, once you get these tight, it'll be the same as those little Phillips screws. You don't have to cinch them down. They got Loctite on them to hold them in place. All right, we got those down. So now, only other thing really mechanical that you've got is your handle, obviously. It's E in the kit. What we got here, got the top half of the handle. Got 2 very, very small Phillips. You have to have a number 1 Phillips for those to get those in. You got your bottom half of your handle. You got a pin and a washer. So slide the bottom on here, washer down, and then pin through right there. Get that turned, and it seats in just like that.
So it,
You got a smaller groove right here, and you got a larger groove on this side to get you clearance for all of that. And then pop this top on, get these screws started up in here. And they're very, very tricky just because they're having to bite into that plastic for the first time to get them started. And just until they kind of snug right there. And as far as mechanical parts, other than hooking up sonar and power, which we're going to get into in just a second on routing cables and all that, that is the majority of all of the mechanical. We do have, if you remember, from bag C, we still have 2 more of these little Phillips screws, and that'll be for the lower shock, which we're about to show you right here. Pull your cable, pick it up, and with that rear shock on, it'll sit right there. So then, here's your front shock. Break that high quality tape. set it in there same way. And again, you got a cutout here that this fits into, and you have your 2 screw holes, and you have a pin holder right here for this locking pin. And now what I didn't show you earlier, and we'll be able to see it a little bit here, get some light on it. Those pins, there's one that goes to each one of these shocks and runs up, one on the other side too. But in here on this roll pin, they have grooves right there. And so I'm sure some people were wondering, you know, since there was no screws or bolts or anything to hold that lower pin in, that's what holds that lower pin in, is the pressure off of the shock holding that guide up into that.
I'm just letting you go. I knew you'd.
Yeah.
But that's good right there.
For that part, that's what your complete trolling motor is going to look like. You know, shocks assembled, mount together with the service section. And now we're going to go into the way I would do it. Some people go ahead and they finish their wiring as far as power, transducer, and all that. You know, Garmin has a neat channel right here you're about to see about getting all that managed and out of the way. What I like to do is I like to go ahead and start down here first, and what we're going to do is we're going to mount the scope, and then we're going to ease up the shaft and then do all this at one time and come down and manage it and make it look good. Normally what I would do in this situation, if we're going to be installing a new force on a boat, adding a live scope, all that at one time, what I would generally do, because we've already got this trolling motor in the upright position like this, just to make it handy and not have to bend over and do it, I would go ahead and mount my live scope transducer here on the shaft, get it managed up the shaft, and then start routing all the cables together coming down through your mount. But for what we're doing today, I'm gonna go ahead and show how I would do the full rest of the trolling motor install, being this cable here, managing it, and managing your power harness right here. And then we'll go back into the rest of it.
Like I said, we're doing multiple videos. So if a lot of y'all guys will be mounting this and a live scope. If that's the case, we're gonna have a whole nother video that shows you how to mount a live scope from scratch. So we're gonna do that as well, but we're splitting them up for y'all just so the video is not forever.
So last bag we've got here as far as your labeled series that Garmin has is F, and that's gonna be all your cable management clips. So you got these little black clips here. You'll see they're already got some of them up here on this coil cable. You already got some of these cable management clips here. These few here are going to be for your additional places you need to manage it going down, and we're going to show you how Garmin recommends all this to be routed right here. So first, I'm going to take this transducer cable, and we've got a channel over here on the side of this mount. We're going to run this down. It pops out right down here. I'm going to pull a little slack. Don't want to pull all the slack yet. And we're going to bring right here to our power cable. Same thing. Go right down through. All right, so we got that one down. We're going to finish pulling this one through. Now what you'll hear this referred to right here from Garmin is a service loop. You got to have that loop. You don't want this thing pulled down tight because you got a pivot point right here. You need slack. You definitely don't want to stress this transducer cable because that'll cause your transducer to go out. You don't want to stress your power cable, start breaking the wires in it, and breaking them down over time could cause you problems. So you want to leave that loop in here just like that. So I'm going to come down here out of our bag we just opened. There's another little bag right here. Got 2 metal clips, got 4 small cap head screws. And what these are going to do, over here on the side, there is 2 screw holes up here, and then there's 2 screw holes on the lower end down here where it comes out. And that's what's going to attach that to this mount and keep it all pretty out of the way. Not going to pinch any cables, anything like that. What I'm going to do is just lower this trolling motor down because I'm short. All right, and I believe this is a number 3 in metric. Most of these smaller bolts like this from Garmin are going to be metric. Get that one down in there a little bit. Get another one on here. And we're going to do the same thing one more time. back to these little clips. Make it pretty right here, keep it all together. Like it to be clean and uniform.
When did they start using those clips? Because was it tape? Was it electrical tape before?
Normally, yes, it would have been electrical tape. Garmin, as soon as they come out with this trolling motor, actually already had these in mind, and they were using them up here. And originally, I don't think it came with but 2 extras, and now they're sending 4 extras, I believe, in every bag. That way, you can use 2 of them here if you want to, and then put 2 of them down here once you're managing the lower end. It's just kind of preference on that. This is how I like to do it. I like to keep this one where it is. That way it's not hanging up here or laying down and getting a chance of getting caught in this mount.
Let me ask you, zip ties, thing of the past, correct?
For the most part, yes, zip ties are a thing of the past.
Definitely, and we'll get into that on the live scope. You never live scope, correct? Never put those on any cables.
There's only really, in my opinion, and a single exception to it. The only time you'll see me use a zip tie anywhere on a live scope wire, and you'll see why and how it's able to be done over here when we start routing our live scope, when we start putting it on. But the thing is, you never want them tight at all.
But that's probably, I'm guessing, that's only from the wire to the trolling motor.
Yes.
Okay, not anywhere else. Gotcha.
That's right. If you were doing this and you've already got all your other electronics done and things like that, what you would normally do next, hook your power up to your trolling motor, hook your depth finder up here if you got a compatible fish finder with this particular transducer, and then you would mount your foot pedal down and either power it with the optional power cable for 12-volt power, or you can do the 2 AA batteries. That's where you would be next. For this job here, it's going to be one of the last things I do, just because of routing wires. Don't panic though, we're still going to show you how to put the prop on, hook the foot pedal up, bolt it down, and get all that ready to where your trolling motor is ready to roll. All right, so putting the prop on a forced trolling motor, we got a spacer, which is also an anode, and we've got a shear pin, got a washer, a nut, and a lock washer, and then your prop. This is the high efficiency prop that comes with all the forced trolling motors. So we'll stick our shear pin in right here into the hole. Got a groove in here in the prop, just like any other prop. Keep that thing going, and if you hit a stump with it too hard, it'll break it off. That way it doesn't hurt your motor. So prop's on. Slide that anode down. Then our big flat washer, lock washer, and then our nut. Get it snug down right there, and then we're gonna grab a ratchet.
I've had trolling motors of all types and whatever. Sometimes this is hard to get off. Is that?
Never had an issue with these.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have to go very far onto that shaft. It's just right there at the end. So I don't think you'd ever have an instance of it getting too, iffy.
I've seen those pins bend before, but that's on other trolling motors. Have you ever seen one in a Garmin?
I haven't had one of them bend on one of these trolling motors yet. They built these props a little bit more, I guess sacrificial would be the word to use. It's probably a little bit easier to break than what a heavier duty prop is, but that's good in the long run because it's saving wear and tear on your motor, because these motors are built to last a long time and not have to be serviced.
So is this a prop you'd recommend?
Yes, I would recommend this prop. This prop here, compared to any of the other ones I've tried on here, is going to give you the most power. And I have not had really any issues with it in grass either.
I want power, so that's good.
Yeah, power, this is it. I mean, if you were to put one of the other 2 props on here versus after just running this one, you would see an immediate drop off to me. I've seen it.
Would you I'm a guy who always carries 2 props. Would you carry 2 props?
I agree.
Okay.
At least one. If you're just a weekend fisherman, it's always good to have at least one. So, prop selection on these trolling motors, Garmin has 2 props. This is the high efficiency. Like I said, it comes with all of them. Then you also have a weedless version, which is similar to like a Minn Kota prop. So it's be a little better in the grass. I personally haven't had any huge issues with this one in grass. I think it's pretty good. Got a pretty, thin edge to cut through some grass. Then also what you can run is a 80-pound or 101-pound Minn Kota prop on here. They take the same shear pin, the same setup here as far as the nut and all that. The prop just fits right on there. It's the same size lower unit, so that's why it works. So if you think the durability is not quite there on one of these other props, you can go with that as a heavier duty option, but you will lose the power that you have in this prop right here.
I want power.
Foot pedal power cable.
What's this for?
This is your foot pedal 12-volt power cable. That way you don't have to fight with, you know, AA batteries over the course of a year since it's wireless. This is the only wire going to it. It's just power. Everything else communicates a different way over to the trolling motor. So this is what I was talking about earlier on the ease of getting back into one of these and adding something if you need to. And I just had to add something a little bit faster than what we thought. Just come in there and pull that off. Todd, if you'll handle my drill right there, buddy. And then we will zip these off. Just jump into it right here and be like, hey,
Yep.
looking up the graphs and the foot pedal.
So that makes a whole air full of
Alright, so once you get that hooked up, we'll come around here. We'll get this 12-volt power hooked in. Screw that down in there. And then route it through their management tray. Just like that.
Everybody
She's flipped
in the
over.
world blind. Please, Lord, give me a sign.